What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central. I'm your host, CEO Haize, aka Just Haize, and you have found yourself in the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. On today's episode, we'll be continuing our draft player profiles. This episode, we'll be reviewing Orlando Robinson, who's a 6'11", 245-pound center who draws comps to both Karl Anthony Towns and Nikola Vucevic. We'll get into that, and also Jeremy Sochan, who was the Big 12 Sixth Man of the Year. So we'll get into both of those players, also some general Bulls talk, all that right after our intro.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans, welcome to another episode. And before we even get into our draft player profiles, we have to start off with Joakim Noah naming his all-time Chicago Bulls starting five. And this is an interesting list. Me and Pat over on Locked On Bulls talked about this very heavily over there. If you want to hear Pat's all-time Bulls starting five, go and check out Locked On Bulls today. But Joakim Noah named Derrick Rose, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Luol Deng, and Luke Longley as his all-time Chicago Bulls starting five. Now, me and Pat very heavily talked about Art being on this list and whatnot. My all-time Chicago Bulls starting five would be very similar to Joakim Noah's with the replacement of two players. It's Derrick Rose, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, who I think are going to be locked in on most Chicago Bulls fans' lists. But then I'm coming in with Tony Kukoc and Joakim Noah as my actual all-time Chicago Bulls starting five. But what that means, I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. Who would be your all-time Chicago Bulls starting five? If you had to name it today, let me know and sound off down below. Just something quick and interesting. Joakim Noah he's a very interesting dude. This was done over for NBA Paris or France. So it was all in French, the interview. But I want to hear from you guys. What's your all-time Chicago Bulls starting five? Now, before we get into anything else and do draft player profiles, I want to address something. And, this is not to get on a high horse. This is just to talk about it. You guys already know where I stand on a lot of this. With Chicago Bulls Central, we always try to cover everything with integrity here. I know I do my jokes, I call people idiots and everything, but when it comes to the content, right? When it comes to actual coverage of the Chicago Bulls, outside of my opinion, we try to do it with integrity. And this offseason has already been off to a hilarious start. Like between the TMZ article and people trying to misplace quotes to try to make it sound a little more salacious and things like that, we don't do that here. And the one thing that we're always going to keep that, and this is why we do real coverage. This is why I don't do, unless it's like reported on by Casey Johnson, some other main outlets, I don't do a lot of commenting on the rumors because it's all just noise. Even the little LeVar Ball thing, didn't even really want to do a lot of commenting or things on that because it just stirs up the fan base. It gets pointless conversations going. It's all silly. And when it comes to a lot of the Zach LaVine coverage, the fact that, the news cycle, a lot of this even has been said, a lot of this is probably coming from Klutch Sports, just trying to get their guy out there in conversations. Nobody was really talking about Zach LaVine's free agency beforehand, and now he's the number one story in basketball in very many ways outside of the playoffs, things like that. So, it's going to happen. Most outlets do expect Zach LaVine to be back in Chicago. And, we can have a conversation on the max contract, all this. Those are valid conversations to have, and that's fine, especially now that we know he's not going to get the max contract. I mean, the super max contract. He's going to get the max. But just protect yourselves, guys. Look out there. Don't believe a lot of the nonsense because that's what a lot of this is. This news cycle is nonsense. These outlets are looking for headlines, and that's one of the downsides of how modern media is done. It's all based off clicks. Everybody has sponsors. They have ads running on their website. It's all about the number of clicks. They're getting paid based off the number of clicks an article gets. So they're benefited by having salacious articles and headlines in it when it comes to it. The whole DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine thing. Listen, let's just drop some facts on that, and then we'll get into our draft player profiles. Fourth quarter scoring. DeMar DeRozan averaged 8.4 points per game on 5.5 shots per game. Zach LaVine, while averaging much less at 5.9 points per game, got only 1.5 shots less than DeMar DeRozan in the fourth quarter at 4 shots average. And then again, Zach LaVine was hurt a lot of the second half of the season. Those averages were a lot closer early in the season. In clutch time, right? And clutch time is determined by 5 minutes or less, and the game being, I think it's the margin being less than five points between teams. So in clutch time, DeMar DeRozan averaged 4.1 points per game on 2.3 field goals, field goal attempts. So that's the number of attempts that he gets. Zach LaVine averaged 3 points per game, or 3 points in clutch time on 1.9 free throw attempts in clutch time. So that's 0.4 difference in the amount of shots that these players were allowed and the difference between them. Listen, there's not any issue with Zach LaVine thinking that this is DeMar's team. And anybody who tries to say that is just being salacious. You got, like I said, protect yourselves. Don't have conversations with idiots. Ignore the idiots in the comments and elsewhere in social media because, listen, they're going to take their time to do whatever they can because guess what? They're sad individuals. I don't care if that's a person. I don't care if that's an outlet. They're just sad individuals. So let's go ahead and move on from those sad individuals because we're not going to talk about idiots too much here on Chicago Bulls Central. Let's get into the draft player profiles for today. The first one up is Orlando Robinson. Now, Orlando Robinson played with Fresno State, 6'11", 245 pounds, has a wingspan of 7.1 feet. So a little over a 7-foot wingspan there. Very versatile center. The positives on Orlando Robinson are just his motor. He gets out there and gets it. He can shoot threes. He shot the 3-point he had right around 3 attempts per game. He shot the ball at a 35% clip from 3-point range. He averaged 19.4 points per game in his junior year on 33 minutes. So that's very solid. His overall field goal percentage is 48.4%. And then also his free throw percentage, 71% from the free throw range. So very solid free throw guy there. He has great offensive skill. His offensive skill set cannot be not be slighted at all. He's a reliable 3-point shot. He has a back to the basket game. He has solid post moves. Everything that you want there from a center offensively, he has. He doesn't force bad shots. He works within the frame of the game. He's not quite the passer that some of the big men now in the NBA has become. Like when we talked about Nikola Jovic, he's a great passer. I wouldn't give that to Orlando Robinson being that type of passer, but he's a solid passer, right? He doesn't have that polish with his passing game that some of the other centers and big men in this draft have. But again, he uses his length around the rim to rebound fairly well. He converts those to dunks. Great motor. Everything offensively about Orlando Robinson is top notch. Has no issues with his offensive game at all. The issues come in on the defensive end of the basketball, and he lacks the lateral foot speed a lot. He's gonna get cooked a lot in that with not only faster forwards, but don't let a guard get past our guards. It's gonna be easy pickings in the post in that case. Doesn't have great foot speed. We already talked about laterally what he lacks. And he's not that good of a rim protector at all. While he's a very good rebounder, shot blocking, no. And that's because he's not the best athlete. He doesn't have the best vertical. You know what the hell. He doesn't have the best vertical. With nonetheless, again, now with a pick like Orlando Robinson, you're looking at can he become a competent enough defender to where it offsets what he lacks, what he brings offensively. That's going to be the biggest issue with him. Like I said, the offensive game is not a surprise at all. And I think that's very much shown as well by how he's moved in most mocks. You're looking at a guy who early in the season was projected to be close to a lottery pick, back into the lottery, but now in some mocks he's a second-round pick. He's definitely a low first-round pick in most of them. A lot of mocks have him going to the Golden State Warriors, which it would just be crazy if he goes to the Golden State Warriors and ends up working out because that's how things go for them. But with all that being said, while he has a lot of the offensive skills that we need, we know what we're missing from big men, or what we're trying to get, at least this offseason, is defense from down low. That's what we need. And while, yes, he projects to be close to Nikola Vucevic, potentially, right? Potential is not always realized, but that is where his ceiling is between Karl-Anthony Towns and Nikola Vucevic. He's going to be 20. Oh, he just turned 21 years old. Oh, no, he's going to turn 22 years old before the NBA draft. So he'll be a 22-year-old rookie, which we've had some luck with 22-year-old rookies over the course of Bulls history. So with that being said, does he can simulate a lot of our what the positives already that Nikola Vucevic has. If you want to keep that type of game going, yeah, he projects to be able to bring that. But it's that defensive issue. We already have a big man that has lapses defensively, that has holes defensively that we're trying to cover up with. by how we fill out this bench. Now, we could very well draft Orlando Robinson and still go after a defensive big, a veteran defensive big, which is probably what the Bulls are going to do either way, still go after a veteran big no matter who they end up drafting, if they do draft a big. But I don't know about Orlando Robinson's fit on this team. Again, 22 years old, so he's going to be polished. He's going to be ready to go more than likely early on. But looking at everything just coming together for Orlando Robinson and what his weaknesses are, it really just is going to magnify the weaknesses that this team already has. But let me know down below what you guys think. Do you think Orlando Robinson may be the answer for the Bulls at the 18th pick? If he is available there, would you like to see them draft him? Or like me, because of his defensive issues, would you like to see the Bulls go after a more defensive-minded big, or at least a big that's more solid on the defensive end of the ball? Because he's going to need a lot of coverage from a Patrick Williams and whoever else we can bring on this team defensively to really bring out the best in him, unless whoever the training staff is of the team that drafts him can really work in that defensive game. But let me know what you guys think about that one down below. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get into our next draft player profile. This one is for Jeremy Sochan. Now, he was the Big 12 Sixth Man of the Year, and that right there says to me a lot. Being able to accept a role, especially six-man role in college, is huge, because then more than likely you're going to be more than willing to accept that on the NBA level, and that's kind of what we need right now. Now, Jeremy Sochan, just the raw physicals, 6'9", 230-pound power forward. He's 19. He's going to be 19 this whole rookie season, so he has a lot of upside. Younger player, projected to go around the Bulls. He should definitely be there unless another team really sees in his potential and decides to reach on him, which is very much a possibility, especially being 19 years old. Everything that you want from a modern power forward, he brings. Shooting ability. He has a very nice vertical, which covers up for some of the lack of length that he has. Defensively, he projects to be one of those forwards that can switch onto guards as well. Has energy, high ceiling, which is the one thing that I think the Bulls are going to look for in a draft pick. Is not necessarily just the potential, but what is that ceiling? What is that floor as well? He has a high floor as well, just because of everything. He's going to be 19 on draft day. Like I said, athleticism through the roof. Very consistent effort on both sides of the ball he brings. He's a solid rebounder, 9.1 rebounds per 36 minutes for him, which is huge. Again, those per 36 minute stats can be a little bit misleading. But every offensive weapon that you would bring, but as the difference with an Orlando Robinson is that he also has that defensive ability that you can look at and say, hey, there's enough here, even at 19 defensively, that we know he's going to project to be a plus defender in the NBA. Now, some of the comps that I've seen for him are Kyle Kuzma, which I don't know if I necessarily all the way agree with that comp personally, but I can understand it, especially for his offensive skill set. Again, three-point shooting for him, excellent. His stats, again, keep in mind he played the six-man role, so he averaged in his freshman year 9.2 points per game on 25.1 minutes per game. He shot the ball overall from the field 47%. That three-point, he got about 2.7 three-point attempts per game. Hit that at a 29% rate. Again, six-man. Rebounds, he averaged 6.4 rebounds coming off the bench, 1.8 assists, over 1 steal per game, and 0.7 blocks per game. Like I said, everything that you look at, and he's one of those players that, while maybe projected not to be drafted super high, when you take a look at his stats and the fact that he did that as a six-man, there's a lot of potential there as a 19-year-old player coming into the NBA. So not Orlando Robinson, Jeremy Sochan, while is definitely not going to, I would still pick an EJ Liddell over him just because of EJ Liddell's ability to go right now and be a little bit more polished right now. Jeremy Sochan is definitely a player that, if the Bulls did draft, could not only work out, but could be one of those players that long-term could be a starting power forward for the Chicago Bulls. Like I said, that defensive versatility that he has is crazy. It's bananas. The bananas on the versatility. Think of it like, while his comps professionally, people are making a lot of comps to Kyle Kuzma, I would make more so a Bobby Portis comp for Jeremy Sochan. Again, and some of the weaknesses, we talked a lot about his strengths. Some of his weaknesses is that most of his points came off assist. So while he may be able to eventually create his own shot because he's so young, he has a nice dribble, things like that, his inability to create is now he's probably always going to be on the floor with a point guard that can create for him in either Lonzo Ball or Ayo Dosunmu. So that may not be something that really rears its head until later on in his career, his inability to create his own shot. And he's also not the best efficiency player. Like the advanced stats don't do a lot for him outside of that per 36 minute when it comes to the rebounding rate. But Jeremy Sochan is definitely a player that I would not mind the Bulls drafting at all. Taking a look at just everything from him, like I said, upside, what he can contribute now, the defensive potential for him, the offense potential is through the roof. Jeremy Sochan is definitely a player that I would like, coming out of Baylor, a player that I would not mind at all to see the Bulls draft. But I want to hear from you guys. After seeing the highlights here, after hearing me talk about it, do you think Jeremy Sochan could possibly be the pick for the Chicago Bulls series? He's slated to go a little bit above the Bulls, around that 16, 17 mark range. But depending, as we know with the way drafts work out, is that all it takes is for one or two teams to either make a trade or to see potential in somebody who's not necessarily slated to go higher for him to be there easily around the Chicago Bulls draft place. So let me know what you guys think down below on Jeremy Sochan and his potential to be the pick for the Chicago Bulls. But that's it for me for today, guys. Make sure you're following the podcast at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns at bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave us a text and or voicemail, you can do so at 773-270-2799. Like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.